Why is it that the people who shine the brightest often come from the darkest places? It's like God handpicks the ones surrounded by chaos, pain, and dysfunction, and says, "That one's mine." If your family feels like a battlefield, what if it's because you were born to end the war? In this video, we're diving deep into one of the most misunderstood truths in the spiritual world. Why God places His chosen ones in broken families. It's not random. It's not punishment. And no, it's not because you were cursed or forgotten. There's something far more intentional going on. We're going to uncover why the most spiritually gifted, the most empathetic, and the most purpose-driven people are often born into environments filled with pain, generational trauma, and dysfunction. By the end of this video, you'll understand the divine strategy behind it all, and you might even see your own story in a brand new light. We'll walk through biblical patterns, psychological truths, and spiritual insights that tie everything together. And I promise, this isn't just going to explain your past. It's going to help you reclaim your power, your purpose, and your peace. Let's get into it. Let's start with something you've probably asked yourself more than once. Why me? Why was I born into this family? The one where love felt like a reward, not a given. Where silence was louder than words, where you were made to feel like the black sheep for simply being different, sensitive, or aware. You see, being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. God doesn't pick people who already have it all together. He picks people who are willing to break cycles, challenge norms, and carry burdens no one else would dare touch. That's why He often places chosen souls into the middle of the fire, not to burn them, but to forge them. Think about Moses, chosen by God, yet placed in a situation where his very survival was threatened from birth, raised in a system that didn't reflect who he truly was, surrounded by people who didn't see his calling. Sound familiar? Or Joseph? He had dreams, visions, clear signs of being chosen, but his own brothers betrayed him, sold him out, lied to their father, and Joseph ended up in a pit, then a prison, before he ever reached the palace. But if you look closely, the betrayal was part of the plan. Without the pain, there would have been no preparation. The truth is, God doesn't place you in a broken family to break you. He places you there to break chains. Generational curses don't end because someone said a prayer once. They end when someone stands up and says, "It ends with me." That someone is often the most sensitive child, the one who sees things differently, the one who feels deeply, questions everything, and doesn't quite fit in. If you're that person, I need you to know something. Your pain wasn't pointless. The rejection, the abandonment, the dysfunction, it didn't miss God's attention. In fact, it was part of a bigger strategy. See, broken families often operate on autopilot. Patterns repeat. Abuse hides behind traditions. Silence is mistaken for peace. And most people just go along with it, never questioning, never healing. But then you came along, and suddenly, everything started shaking. Why? Because chosen ones carry a different frequency. Your presence alone disturbs what's been sleeping for generations. You feel things more. You notice what others ignore. You care in ways they can't understand. That's not weakness. That's assignment. And assignments come with opposition. Some of the pain you felt wasn't personal. It was spiritual. It wasn't just your mom being cold or your father being absent. It was spiritual resistance to your calling. Because healing, you meant healing everything connected to you. And darkness doesn't give up territory without a fight. But here's the twist. What tried to break you is what God will use to build you. Because in broken families, chosen ones become builders. You learn to create what you never received. You learn to speak love even when you were raised on silence. You become what you needed, and that's what makes you unstoppable. God doesn't just save you from something, He saves you for something. But here's the hard part. The part nobody really prepares you for. Being chosen doesn't always come with confirmation. Most times, it feels like isolation. You're in a house full of people, but feel completely alone. You try to express yourself, but your words are either dismissed or twisted. You get labeled as too sensitive, too dramatic, or too rebellious when all you're doing is reacting to the chaos that others have normalized. That's not just frustrating, it's soul-crushing, because you start questioning your own sanity. You wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you really are the problem. Maybe if you just kept your mouth shut and went along with the dysfunction, things would be easier. But something inside you just won't let you. That's the challenge of being chosen. You don't get to unsee what's wrong. You don't get to silence the alarm bells going off in your spirit. You're the one who sees the cracks in the foundation. You're the one who feels the pain that others have numbed out for years. And even though it hurts, you can't go back to pretending everything's okay. Because for you, it never was. And here's what makes it even harder. The people you love the most might be the ones who hurt you the deepest. You're not just dealing with random enemies. You're trying to make peace with parents who didn't protect you, siblings who competed with you, relatives who made you feel invisible. You're trying to love people who never learned how to love themselves, let alone someone like you. But this is where the shift begins. When you realize that your mission isn't to be loved by them, it's to heal what they couldn't. It's not about changing them. It's about breaking the chain. And breaking chains takes strength. Not the kind that shouts or fights, but the kind that stays soft in a world that tried to harden you. You were sent into that family to shift the atmosphere, to awaken what's been dormant, to challenge what's been hidden, and yes, to pay a cost others didn't have to pay. That's not fair, but calling never is. Calling doesn't ask if you're ready. It doesn't wait for applause. It simply demands your obedience. And let's be real. Obedience often looks like silence when you want to scream, forgiveness when you want revenge, boundaries when everyone expects access. It looks like healing in secret, loving from a distance, and showing up as the version of yourself no one helped you become. That's not weakness. That's spiritual warfare. And you're winning it every time you choose to rise above the mess you were born into. Every time you decide to love when you were raised on survival. Every time you decide to give your future kids what you never got. It's not just about your healing. It's about the future. Because what God is building through you is generational. What started with trauma can end with transformation. But someone has to go first. And that someone is you. But let's be honest, just knowing you're chosen doesn't make the pain any easier. It doesn't suddenly erase the loneliness of being misunderstood or the frustration of always having to be the strong one. It doesn't undo the sleepless nights you've spent wondering why God would send you to fix a family that seems beyond repair. This is where most people break. Right here, in the middle of the mission. Because it's one thing to survive dysfunction, but it's another thing to stay soft through it, to still show love when all you've ever known is criticism, to speak peace when you were raised on shouting matches, to carry light in a house where darkness feels like home. And that's why being chosen feels more like a burden than a blessing some days. Because the calling forces you to grow in places no one else around you is growing. It forces you to forgive people who aren't sorry, to honor people who didn't protect your innocence, to be the mature one at an age where you should have just been allowed to be a kid. God doesn't send chosen ones into broken families because he wants to punish them. He sends them because he needs someone in that bloodline who can see clearly, someone who can look at the dysfunction and call it what it is, not to shame the family, but to heal it, not to judge, but to redeem. That's the weight of it. You're carrying assignments that didn't start with you. You're battling demons that have been fed for generations. And it feels impossible sometimes. You want to give up. You want to walk away and let someone else carry the load. But deep down, you know you can't. Because you weren't just sent to escape the dysfunction. You were sent to end it. And that kind of mission requires a level of strength, patience, and compassion that doesn't always feel natural. It stretches you. It humbles you. It even breaks you at times. But what's being built in you is more powerful than anything that ever tried to break you. You're not just someone who got stuck in a broken family. You're someone God trusted enough to plant in the middle of it, because he knew you'd survive it, grow through it, and eventually lead others out of it. The moment you realize that your pain wasn't pointless, that your struggle had a purpose, it changes everything. Suddenly, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" Because once you understand the mission, you stop waiting for people to apologize and start walking in authority. You stop seeking validation and start speaking life. You stop repeating patterns and start rewriting the story. You weren't sent to become what you saw. You were sent to break what you saw, to rise above it, to create something new from something broken. And it's not just your family that will be changed because of it. Your future, your legacy, your children. They all benefit from your decision to be the one who chose differently. That's the cost of being chosen. But it's also the reward. But here's the challenge most chosen ones don't see coming. The loneliness. Not just the surface level kind, where you feel left out at family gatherings or misunderstood in conversations. No, this is a deeper kind of loneliness, the kind that hits when you're the only one willing to see the truth, when you're the only one praying while everyone else is cursing, when you're the only one trying to fix what others pretend isn't broken. You start to wonder if you're crazy. You question whether you're just too sensitive, too emotional, too different. And that's exactly what the enemy wants. To isolate you so much that you begin to question your identity. Because if he can't stop your calling, he'll try to convince you that you're not qualified to carry it. And let's be honest, it's hard. It's hard showing up every day in a place that constantly reminds you of your past, your triggers, your wounds. It's hard to stay kind when people keep testing your boundaries. It's hard to be the one who forgives first, who apologizes first, who keeps trying, especially when no one else seems to care. But here's what most people don't realize. The chosen ones aren't the ones with perfect patience or flawless faith. They're the ones who show up anyway, who cry out to God behind closed doors and still come to the table with love, who fall short and feel the weight of it, but get back up because the mission matters more than the mistake. And over time, something starts to shift. You're no longer triggered by what used to break you. You're no longer bitter toward the people who wounded you. You begin to see them differently. You stop seeing your family through the lens of your pain and start seeing them through the eyes of purpose. You realize they were broken too. They were shaped by the same cycles you're trying to break. And suddenly, your heart opens a little wider. You forgive a little deeper, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. That's when you know the transformation is working. Not when your family changes, but when you do. When you stop reacting and start responding. When you stop waiting for them to be different and start choosing to be different yourself. And this is what separates chosen ones from everyone else. They don't let the dysfunction define them. They use it as fuel. They use it as clarity. They let it push them closer to God, not farther from Him. You stop needing the people who hurt you to fix you, and you start trusting that God already is. The hardest part about being chosen isn't the assignment. It's staying faithful to it when nothing around you seems to change. But faith isn't about what you see. It's about what you believe. And chosen ones believe in healing, even when everyone else is hiding. They believe in redemption, even when everyone else says it's too late. You're not weak for feeling the weight of it. You're strong for carrying it anyway.